Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Comic Book Nostalgia. I'm CB Nostalgia, and we have a little update on Marvel. Well guys, over the last couple of years, you may have noticed some mega changes with Marvel as a whole. Turning the clock back just a little bit, Ike Perlmutter headed up Marvel, with Kevin Feige working at Marvel Studios, Marvel Comics being its own entity, and Jeff Loeb running Marvel TV. These days, Kevin Feige is king of all things Marvel, and everybody is technically part of the same company under the same leadership, making for some pretty interesting interactions. Now recently, Marvel Comics X-Men senior editor Jordan D. White sat down and explained how the publisher works with Marvel Studios and the impact this has on the live-action features and vice versa. Now, as many of you know, long before the Marvel Cinematic Universe was even a thing, a lot of times what happened in the movies would impact the comics. Probably the biggest thing ever was Spider-Man, where the organic web shooters that Tobey Maguire had in the movie actually ended up in the books. Recently, we've seen a redesigned Agatha Harkness, clearly inspired by WandaVision, so none of this is something new. Now, Marvel, Sony, and Warner Brothers all quite often pull ideas and characters from the source material in the books. But now it's clearly a two-way street. What happens in the movies affects the comics and vice versa. But with Kevin Feige now being the king of all things Marvel at Disney, what sort of impact will that have going down the road? Well, recently, X-Men senior editor Jordan D. White spoke with AITP and explained in detail how this all works, and confirmed even though they're all under one umbrella, they are very much left up to their own creative devices. This is what he had to say. I mean, we're all part of the same company, but they don't consult me on what they do, and I don't consult them on what I do. Every once in a while we have get-togethers with studios and we share information about what we're doing, but it's not that intimate. Like, I knew that X-Men 97 series was being worked out some time ago, but I don't know what the episodes are about. Mostly we spend time talking about MCU projects. And then, like I said, we will also go do presentations for studios as well, going, here's what we are planning for the next year. Here's what we're going to do. But I certainly don't think they change their plans based on what we say. They always tell us, we're not looking for you to change what you're doing to fit with what we're doing. We want you to stay 5 to 10 years ahead of us because we want you doing fun and interesting stuff that we can do down the line, which we're more than happy to do. We absolutely want to tell new stories about our characters, and yes, if we do a good job, those could become the backbone of some future thing. Fingers crossed. Will you see Krakow in the future X-Men movies? I would love that. I have no idea if we're doing a good enough job, and people feel like that is what X-Men is and can be, and I have no idea if we're doing a good enough job, and people feel like that is what X-Men is and can be. That would be amazing. Now I have to say, I find a lot of this really fascinating and totally good news. There was some pretty big worries that Kevin Feige would kind of dive into Marvel Comics once he became the king of all things Marvel and kind of steer the ship in particular directions. I love the idea of some back and forth synergy, but I also really want the comics to be their own standalone thing, coming up with their own stories and pushing limits that would never happen in a studio format. You have to see what works, and often that involves risk-taking. Those risks on screen cost a lot more money than to give it a shot in the comics, and I think that is a really wise way to develop new ideas, see how fans like them, and then attempt to transition them into other media. I also like the idea of some creative decisions made in the MCU influencing the comics also. That recent cover with Agatha Harkness for Midnight Suns #2 looks great. It's totally Catherine Hahn, and people love her version of the character, potentially revitalizing Agatha in the comics themselves. This is a win-win for everybody. Now obviously Marvel Comics are going to be a big topic on this channel, so if you want to get all the Marvel updates, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss anything. But until we know more, what do you guys think? Do you like the idea of the comics and the studio working together and separate at the same time? And were you worried Kevin Feige would overly influence the comics into becoming a subsidiary of the MCU? I have to say, it was a concern. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you hit like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.